Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about relations and the different ways that you can represent them. So to start off, a relation is a set of input values and their respective output values. So like we've played around with, functions take an input value, they manipulate it in some way, and then you get some other value out. So a relation shows what number was plugged in and what number came out from there. So the first way we see these written is generally as an ordered pair. Remember that an ordered pair is two digits represented inside parentheses and separated by a comma, in which the x value comes first and the y value comes second. So it's called an ordered pair because the order of those numbers matters. So if I'm looking at my example here, in the first one I have a x value of -5, and I have a y value of 4. Okay. In the second, I have an x value of -4 and a y of -1. I have an input of -2, which gave me an output of 1. I have a 0 that's an x and a 4 that's a y. However you want to describe this, the order of these tells you that the first number is your x value or your input value, and the second number is your y value, your output value. The second way that we can represent these relations is as a table. So we've all seen tables before. Generally, they're two columns vertically in which our x value or our input value is listed down the left-hand side, and then our y value, the output value, is listed next to it in the right-hand column. Now, the only stipulation I really have for a table, it really can be in any order, but generally we like for the right-hand side, or excuse me, the left-hand side, the input values, the x values, to be in order from least to greatest. Okay, so if I'm going to try to do this relation that was originally presented as an ordered pair and put it into my table, I'm going to start with my x value that is the smallest. So in this case, -5 is my smallest one. So that's going to go in my first box on the x value side. And then directly next to it, I'm going to put the corresponding y value, that 4. And I'm going to continue to do this, writing my x values in order from least to greatest, and then bringing along their corresponding y value. So my next x value is -4. And I'm going to bring that -1 down. Now, your y values do not need to be in least to greatest order because they should match with whatever their x value is. Those two should not be separated when you're working with the table. So I've got -2 as an x, and its corresponding y is 1. I've got 0, which corresponds with 4. And then I have an input of 1 with an output of 3. So my x side, the x side of my table is in least to greatest order. The y values just match up with the x values that we had here in the relation. Now, the third way to represent these might be a little new, and it is called a mapping or a map. Okay, now with mapping, essentially you're going to start with two bubbles. The first bubble represents all of your input values, all of your x values. And your second bubble is going to represent all of your y values. Now, where in a table, your x values are listed least to greatest, in a map, you want both sets of values to be listed from least to greatest. So the first step for mapping is going to be to list all of your x values. When I list my x values, I want them to go least to greatest. And I want to make sure that I don't repeat any numbers. Now, this is specific to mapping, but with my x values, I want to make sure that I don't repeat any. So in my example, I have -5, -4, 2, 0, and 1. My x values are listed from least to greatest, and I don't have any repeats. The second thing I'm going to do is repeat that process with my y values. Again, I want those to also be least to greatest, and I want no repeats here. So I'm going to take a look at my y values. I've got 4, -1, 1, 4, and 3. So I want to make sure that I put these in order from least to greatest. So my smallest one here is -1. I'm going to write that first. Then I've got 1, 3, and 4. I have 2 4s. That's okay. I'm just going to write one of those 4s in my bubble. Okay, I don't need to write them both. In fact, I shouldn't write them both. Okay. And then my very last step is to draw arrows to show that relationship. Okay, so based on my ordered pair or my table, you can use either, I know that my -5 as an input value should go with my 4 as an output value. So I'm going to draw an arrow from my -5 to my 4. I'm going to do the same thing with -4. -4 corresponds with -1, so I'm going to draw an arrow that shows that those two go together. And then I'm going to repeat this. Oh, it should be a -2. My mistake. Okay. Now, -2 corresponds with 1, so I'm going to draw that arrow. 0 corresponds with 4. This is not a problem. -5 goes to 4, but 0 also goes to 4. So I'm just going to do another arrow that goes to 4. Okay, both of those numbers have 4 as y values. So both of those arrows are going to point to 4. And then 1 corresponds with 3. The last way that we're going to represent this is in a coordinate plane or in a graph. Okay, so remember that when you are graphing an ordered pair, okay, I'm just going to show the ordered pair which is given as x then y, as a point on the graph. Or on the coordinate plane. So I'm going to copy down my list of ordered pairs just for ease of access here. So I had -5, -4. I had -4, -1. I had -2, 1, 0, 4, and 1, 3. I'll check that, make sure those are all right. Now, remember when graphing an ordered pair, the first number is my x value. It tells me how to move along the x-axis. Remember that the x-axis is the side-to-side axis. It tells me how to move left or right. So when I have -5 as an ordered pair, remember that my x value tells me to move left or right. I go to the right if my x is positive. I go to the left if my x is negative. So I'm going to start with -5. I'm going to go to the left 5 from my origin. And then my y value tells me to move up or down. Again, if it's positive, I'm going to go up. If it's negative, I'm going to go down. So when I have a y value of -4, it tells me to move down 4. So to place this point, -5, -4, I'm going to go 5 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 down. And so that's going to be my point right there. Okay. Remember that the y tells you how to move on the y-axis, which is your up and down axis. Okay. So if I have -4, -1, -4 is my x value. It tells me to go to the left 4 because it's negative. -1 tells me to go down 1, again, because it's negative. That's my y value, so it tells me up or down. 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1. -2 tells me to go 2 to the left. 1 tells me to go 1 down. Nope, it's positive, so it tells me to go 1 up. So I'm going to go 2 to the left and 1 up. There's my point. 0, 4. 0 is my x value, so it tells me to do nothing. It tells me to go not left or right, just stay right in the middle on that origin. And then +4 tells me to move up 4 spaces. So I'm going to start at 0. I go 0 to the left and right, and 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces up. Y go red. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not sure why it wants to draw in red. All right. And then 1, 3. 1 tells me to go 1 to the right because it's a positive X value. 3 tells me to go 3 up because it's a positive Y value. So my point will be 1 to the right and 1, 2, 3 up. Now, once you plot these, if you have a list of ordered pairs, you do not connect these. Okay, if you have just a list of ordered pairs, I don't want to connect these. I just want to show each individual dot that corresponds with my coordinate plane, or excuse me, my ordered pairs. Okay, I'm just putting the dots there. So let's do one more really quick example. Remember that our X values are always the first value in my ordered pair. So 2, 4, X is, my X value is 2, 0, -3, -1, and -3. And my Y values are going to be my second number in my ordered pair. So 4, 0, -4, 2, and 5. So I can put these in a table. Remember, I want my table to go least to greatest based on the X value. So my smallest X value here is -3. So I'm going to write my -3, and I'm going to put the corresponding -4 that goes with it. I have another -3 over here that has a Y value of 5. So I'm going to put -3 with its Y value of 5. Then I've got -1. Corresponds with 2, 0, with 0, and 2 with 4. Okay. I can also make this into a map. Remember, with a map, I want to list all of my X values from least to greatest, but I want no repeats here. So I have 2 -3s. I don't need to write them both. I'm just going to write one -3 here. Then I've got a -1, a 0, and a 2. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with my Y values. List them least to greatest without repeating any numbers. So I've got 0, I got -4, so that's probably my smallest, -4. And then I've got 0, 2, 4, and 5. I list them least to greatest. I don't have any repeats. And then the last thing I do is I show that relationship by drawing arrows. -3 goes to -4, so I'm going to draw an arrow. -3 also goes to 5, so I'm going to draw an arrow to 5 as well. Then I've got -1 with 2, 0 with 0, and 2 with 4. And then my map is done. Lastly, I'm going to represent this as points on a coordinate plane. Because there are specific points, I don't have to connect these. I'm just going to graph them the way I see them. So 2, 4 tells me to go 2 to the right and 4 up, because both of those numbers are positive. 0, 0, that's an easy one. You go right in the center. -3, -4. My X value tells me to go 3 to the left. My Y value tells me to go 4 down. -1, 2. -1, 1 to the left, and 2 up. And -3, 5. 3 to the left, and 5 up. Okay. So I've got 2, 4. I've got 0, 0. I've got -3, -4, -1, 2, and -3, 5. So I can represent this as a table. Oh, no. I can represent it as a map, and I can represent it as points on a coordinate plane or on a graph. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down, and we'll talk about them in class.